All right, for our pinch pot planter, to get started, first we're going to go and lay down either an old t-shirt or maybe an old pillowcase, so that way we've got a nice smooth surface that we can go and work on, and then we can also go and clean this up pretty easily as well. There will also be a couple of other tools that we're going to go and use. One of them is going to be our slip. This is a mixture of clay and water, and it can be soupy and goopy, and that's fine, and this is going to act like our glue. We're also going to maybe need a little bit of water, so I have some in a container that we can go and use as needed. And then you will also need either a pencil, a toothpick, or potentially a nail. You want something that's going to have a little bit of a point on the end of it, and that's going to help us with connecting our clay together and also doing some texture. And last but not least, we are also going to need some clay. And so we will be working with the clay that comes with the kit, and I'll show you what we can do with that. So we are going to focus on making a pinch pot planter. So what I have here is a cute little hedgehog, and we are going to make a pinch pot, which is going to be the body of the form. And then we'll also go and make some facial features for your creature. And last but not least, we'll go and add some feet at the bottom. So we're going to start with the basic form first, and I'm going to show you how to make a pinch pot, and then we'll add the details as we go. So to start with, we're going to take our clay, and we want to take off a little bit of clay from this block so that way we can use it for the face and the feet. So I'm just going to pinch this off, and we can set that aside for now. So with this chunk, we want to go and turn it into a ball. So we're going to take this and kind of squish it and compress it in our hands using our fingers and our palms to go and kind of smush it together, creating a ball type shape. And once it starts to get more round, we can then kind of move this around in our hands. We can tap this to get it more like a sphere, more like a ball. And as we do this, it's going to get more round. And then we will also have a few creases that are going to happen with this as well. And so once we get this fairly round, we can tap this and move this around in our hands. You'll notice that there's going to be some creases that are going to show up in the surface of your clay. These creases can turn into cracks later, and we certainly don't want that to happen. So we're going to go and spend a little bit of time to go and smooth these out. You can use either your thumb or your finger, and we're just going to drag our thumb or our finger across the clay, smoothing out those creases as we go. So you may have a lot of creases, you may not have too many. It's entirely up to whatever your particular piece looks like. But you want to take some time to make sure that this is a really nice smooth ball of clay before we begin with our pinch pot. So just work the surface, smoothing everything out, going all the way around. And then once this is round and smooth, we are ready to start. So to begin with, we're going to go and make a hole in the center using our thumb. You can use your right or your left hand, depending on whatever you feel comfortable with. You're going to take your thumb and we're going to press this into the ball of clay. So hold the clay in your other hand and we're going to press really hard. And we're going to go close to the bottom, but we don't want to go all the way through. From here, we're going to go and take our fingers and our thumb, and we're going to go and do this motion, a pressing motion on our clay. So we're going to start at the bottom, and we're going to go and work our way up towards the rim, and as we do so, we're also going to rotate our clay. And the idea is that as we press and we turn our clay, we're going to be thinning out all parts of it. So we want to start at the bottom, so that way we can ensure that we can get all the way down to the base. And then we're going to press and turn as we go. So this is going to take a little bit of time. You want to make sure that you're pressing evenly with the same amount of force, so that way you don't end up with something that's too thin in one area. And we also want to make sure that this isn't too thick either. So ideally, what we're aiming for is something that's going to be about the size and the thickness of a pencil. So as we work around the clay, if you find that one hand starts to get tired, you can go and switch over to the other hand, and you're going to continue to press as we go. I'm doing the same motion and the same amount of pressure as I work my way around the clay. And you'll see that it's starting to get bigger and it's starting to take shape. And what we want is something that's going to look kind of like a bowl. So that's kind of the end shape that we're hoping for. So as we do this, you'll see that it's starting to get bigger. And we're starting to build our sides. But we don't want our walls to be too thin. So when we start to get towards the rim, and we get closer to the top as we work our way around, we're gonna go and double check the thickness of the top with the pencil that we have here. So when it starts to look like it's getting pretty close, then we know that we've done a good job with working our way around the form, pinching out the walls, and making sure that they're pretty even. So now we have our basic pinch pot shape, kind of like a bowl. And now if you have any sort of cracks or if your rim is uneven and you want to go and kind of even that out, we can go and hold the rim and we can apply a little bit of downward pressure to thicken up the rim if we need to, working our way around, and it'll give us a nice edge. Or if you've been working with your clay for a little bit and it starts to feel like it's getting a little dry, we can also use some of this water and we can just go around that edge with our finger and thumb, and we can kind of smooth out any cracks that might be starting to form. So you can work your way around. If your clay does not feel dry, then you don't have to do this. And we want to be mindful that we're not putting too much water on the clay because we don't want it to get sticky. So we're going to work our way around. And then we also want to make sure that we go and get a nice flat bottom so that way we can go and add our feet to the base. So once we have our form, we're going to go and press on the base of our pinch pot onto the table underneath. And then we can go and flatten out the bottom. So now we have enough space to go and add the feet. So from here, I'm just going to go and press on the sides of my pinch pot just a little bit. It's going to give our little pinch pot a bit of a belly. That way we can have some more dirt, and it's got a nice round shape on the sides. So from here, we're going to go and take the extra piece of clay that we took off from the beginning, and then from here, we're going to go and make the facial features and the feet. So what I want to do is take 2 little bits of clay that I'm going to go and use for ears. So I'm going to take a little bit off of that chunk, and then I'm going to take that clay and roll it in my hand and do the same with the extra piece. And I want these to be about the same size. So if you find that one is a little bit bigger than the other, you can either take a little bit of clay off or you can add a little bit of clay in. So these are almost the same size, but my ears don't need to be very big. So I'm going to take a little bit off, re-roll it, size that up and make sure that it's pretty close to the other one, and then those will be my ears. I'm going to do the same thing for the eyes. I'm going to take just a tiny little bit of clay. I'm going to go and roll those, get them approximately the same size, and then set those aside, and we'll put those on in just a second. Last but not least, I'm going to go and make this shape that's going to be the nose, and this is kind of like a cone, and so it's got a wider base and a thinner pointed tip. So I'm going to take a chunk of clay, and then from here I'm going to roll this into a ball. Again, you can add clay if you need to. You can take some clay away if it seems like it's too big. And then from here, I'm going to go and take my index finger and my thumb, and I'm going to pinch one end. I'm going to rotate my clay as I do this, and it's going to start to give it a point. My little hedgehog needs a pointy nose. So from here, we're next going to go and flatten this base. So I'm going to take my index finger and my thumb, and I'm going to go and pinch on the sides, pressing down on the bottom to make it flat. And it's going to widen out the edge. So this will eventually, as we kind of work the clay and flatten out the base, it's going to turn it into a cone. So this works really well for hedgehogs, for mice. If you want to do something that's smaller, like a cat, you can certainly do that. If you want to go and make something like a dog, then you can go and look at the shapes that you need to make in order to make your creature your own. All right, so now we have a cone. And if you have any sort of little cracks, again, you can take a little bit of water, put that over the surface, and kind of rub that into the clay to help smooth that out. All right, so now we have our face features. So we've got our ears, our eyes, and our nose. And now we can go and apply them to our pinch pot. So you want to pick the side that you would like to work with. So for mine, I'm going to go and I think work right here. And in order to go and have our clay features stick to our pinch pot, we have to scratch and attach. So this is where you're going to go and take your either toothpick or your nail or your pencil, and we want to go and scratch the surface. So I'm going to go and attach my nose first. I'm going to go and take my scratcher and I'm going to rough up the surface like so. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this slip, which is the clay in the water, and dab that over that area. I'm going to do the same with the piece that I want to attach. So I'm going to scratch that surface. Just like so. And then because I have glue on the other part, I don't need to add it. But I'm going to take my pinch pot and I want to hold the wall underneath so that way I don't go and dent the side of my pot. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it down over the area that I scratched. And I want to press from the center and then press towards the edge. And that's going to make sure that it's going to go and seal onto the surface. And then you can kind of shape it and bend it, and you can move that around as you want to. So from here, I'm going to do the same for the eyes and the ears. So I'm going to mark where I want my ears to be. I'm going to add my glue, dabbing that over the surface. And then for my ears, I'm going to go, for the shape of my ears, I'm going to go and flatten these a little bit. So I'm going to take the ball, I'm going to go and squish this into more of a coin shape. So it's going to flatten that, so it's going to be a little bit more circular. And then from here, I'm going to scratch that surface. And I'm going to set that on there like so. Do the same with the next. So we've got 2 ears, and then I can go and put that on there. So from here, I'm going to gently press these onto the surface. I'm going to support underneath the wall so I don't go and bend that wall too much. And then I'm going to take the end of my pencil, the eraser part, and I'm going to go and give it a little bit of shape here. Just like so. So now we have 2 ears. And next we're going to go and put on our eyes. So I'm going to go and make a hole for the eyes. And that's going to help connect them to the body. And then for the eyeballs, I'm going to go and just roll one end so it becomes more of a point. Do that with the other one. And then, because these are really small, we're not going to scratch and attach, but we do want some glue. So I'm going to dip these into the glue so the end has a little bit of that slip on it. And then I'm going to press that into the hole. Like so. So this is starting to take shape. We've now got our facial features. Last but not least, I'm going to go and draw around the nose. So if you want to draw in whiskers, you can go and do that. And then I also need to go and make my feet. So just like the ears and the eyes, I'm going to take off 4 pieces of clay. I want these to be about the same size. So we can take off our chunks, roll them up, and size them as needed. And again, it's pretty important to make sure that these are going to be similar in size so that way our planter isn't too tippy. All right, so we have our 4 feet. And then from here, we're going to go and scratch and attach on the corner edges of where we went and flattened that bottom. We're going to do the same with our feet. This is going to help everything stick really well. And last but not least, you got it, we're going to go and add our slip. So that way we have our glue to help bind these together. So we're going to add our glue. And then when we put these on, we want to go and match the scratched areas together. We're going to press down and do a little bit of a wiggle, so that way they're really going to stay connected. If you just place them on the surface, then unfortunately they can come off pretty easily. So we want these to be nice and secure, so we're going to go and have a little bit of downward pressure, a little bit of a wiggle to help stick those together. And then we have our feet. So from here, we can turn this right side up. If you need to go and change the shape and you want it wider here or longer that way, you can go and alter the shape as you want to. You can kind of make that a little bit more round by adjusting the rim. And then we're also going to have a little bit more downward pressure on those feet to make sure that they really stick on the bottom, okay? From here, we can also go and add our texture to the outside. So for this, I drew lines to go and mimic those quills. So you can go and take your pencil and you can start drawing in those quills and those lines, wrapping this around, and you can continue to radiate outwards, drawing these in as you go. Okay, so you would continue on both sides. And if you're making something other than a hedgehog, you can have this look like sheep's wool, and you can draw spirals, you can draw scales or feathers, whatever your creature needs. Okay? And then last but not least, depending on what your creature is, you can also go and add a tail. So a little bit of clay. If you have something like a dog or a cat and you need to go and use more clay, then you can take off whatever you need. And then I would continue to wrap my texture around, and I would do all of my lines as needed. And then last but not least, I'm going to go and line up the tail at the back, scratch the surface, add my glue, and then place that on the back, just like so. Okay? So there you have it. We have a finished pinch pot planter. So we're going to go and make the body first. We're going to press with our fingers to make that pinch pot, and then you can go and add your face, your feet, and then whatever you want for your design on the outside as well.